create, update, delete, retrieve, and delete. So these 4 operations are operations in which no matter what you do, no matter the programming language, no matter the type of database you are using, Oracle, whatever database you are using, these operations are things in which you do on repeat and you must master. To create is basically for us to insert into the database or into the table. To update is just that word. To update means to modify into a particular table. To retrieve means we need to go to our database and select a particular item from our database. To delete is also to what? Delete from my database. Delete. Now, one thing is you guys will do databasing, so it is upon your database teacher to teach you the programming language SQL when you get to that section with him. But for me, I need to teach you, yes, Hewlett.
Yes, sir. I was trying to get a word properly. Please, is it Crud or Crud?
Oh, Lord, Crud.
Okay, Crud.
I think,
okay.
No, wait, though. I spelled it wrong. It's supposed to be C-R-U. So it's Crud like
Okay.
this.
Okay. So it's create, retrieve, update, and delete. Okay.
Is that okay?
That's okay, sir. Thank you very much.
So over here, we can say retrieve or read, okay? Now, these processes here allow us to go back and forth from the database to gather information that we require for ourselves, we need for ourselves, we crave for ourselves. So any information we need to go and take from the database, we'll use these operations to go and do that. How will we do that? The first step, obviously, is for us to put on our XAMPP. Okay? So we need to put on our XAMPP. So we will go and then make sure our XAMPP server is on. In my case, both of them are on. The database section of our work is in localhost/php my admin. I cannot go and type this address. That is localhost/php my admin without me starting the server and the database in the XAMPP control panel. I have to first of all go to my XAMPP control panel, put on my Apache, put on my MySQL, and then I can go to my browser, and in my browser, I can type in there localhost/php my admin, and I will have access to my database. Is that clear? Any questions? Can I go on? Okay. So
yes, sir.
In my database, Hewlett.
Yeah. Please, may we know the actual ports that are being used by the MySQL and maybe by
80,
PHP?
it's 80 and 443 for the Apache and 3306 for the MySQL.
Oh, okay. So that means that if there is any other application that is using port 3306, MySQL is not going to work.
Yep.
Am I correct? Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. So basically, if you have something like VMware or Skype or any of those things running, you will not be able to use the port 3006. So check the
Yeah,
application.
I have VMware running, so I'm going to stop VMware from running.
Either you uninstall it or put it off while you are using the XAMPP.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, I have to create a database. I have to create a database. How will I create a database? First way I can create a database is by me typing in the SQL statement to create a database. Of course, as I said, this course really is not about that section of the MySQL. So the easiest way for you would be to click on New when you open the PHP first. If you don't see the new, you can click on the Home button over here where the cursor is going around. And then when you click on the Home button, you go and click on Databases, and then you can see this section here for you to type the database name that you want to create. Remember that the tables are in the database. So we don't have database for student, database for lecturer, but all of them come together to make the database. So the name you give your database must reflect the type of thing you are doing and the type of information it will be keeping on various individuals. So in here again, I'm going to create a database called MyDB. MyDB. So I've typed the word MyDB and I'll click on create. And just like that, I have created a new database. So you can see that MyDB is here and I've created a new database. And in my database, it is waiting for me to create a new table that I will take information on a particular entity on. I'm going to create a new table for users. And then the number of columns or the number of data I want to keep on users is 4. So I'll maintain the 4 here and click on create. And it will present me with a window that I can create a new table of information. If, let's say, the information I want to keep here is more than 4, then I can change this one here to the number of columns I want to add, let's say 2, and then click on go, and those 2 would be added so that over here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the next 2 in which I created. So I'm all set. The first thing I'll create is the ID field. The ID field is going to be of type integer, and it is also going to be a table which is an auto increment, an AI table. So I'll take that, and it allows me to make it a primary key. I'll come back here and type in name. That is the name of my next field or column. The name is going to be of type varchar, and because varchar means I am typing the number of characters that I want, I can specify the number of characters I want. I'm assuming that the names people will type will be less than 30. So I'll type 30 here. In a case whereby there would be more, you can go and type the more you want. You can go up to 255. If it's above 255, then you might as well change this into a text field and then be free. But so far as it's less than that, I can choose this. And in here, I'll use what? 30. Over here, the next one is email. I will assume that the person's email is also going to be at most 30 characters. Or let me do this one, 50 characters. And then I would say the registration date, so reg_date, is going to be a timestamp of date and time. So I have here date and time. And then that will allow me to now create my database. So I can also set a default for the date and time to be current date. That means that anytime that field is being filled, the current date would automatically be filled anytime it is being filled. Thus, I don't have to worry about adding the date and time, but automatically it will be set. So with that, I can go to the bottom. The ones in which you don't fill, they will not be counted as part of anything. So I can go to the bottom and click on save, and the information I have there would be saved for me. You can see that in my database, when I look at the structure of my database, I can see all of this information over there. And when I narrow down to my users table, so I'm in the database, if you can see my cursor, my DB, and I'm in the table users. And inside the table users, I can see ID, name, email, and reg_date. Wonderful. When I scroll down, I can see that the current date stamp would be used as my default. Very important. If I want to insert information into my database from the admin panel, I'll just click on insert. When I click on insert, I have the value section here for me to fill the values in which I need in my database. Over here, I have the name column. So the name is going to be Henry Sampson. Over here, the email is going to be henry@gmail.com. Very simple. I do not fill the first part. Why? Because I said the first part is automatically going to increase, auto increment. So there's no need for me to fill it if it is going to be automatically increased. I don't fill the last part because I said it should take the current time stamp. So whatever the current time is, it will load the current time for me. When I press go, it will load my information into the database. Hence now, when I click on browse, I would see that the information in my database is I have ID1, name Henry Sampson, email is henry@this thing, and the timestamp shows the current time in which I have. Are there any questions? My honorable members, are there any questions? HP Elite Book, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Do we understand everything I just said?
Yes, sir.
Let's go on. Now, what I have done here is connected to nothing. I need to connect this to my form, which is in PHP, in my server, because the server needs to go to the database and fetch information from there and send it to the user. For it to do this, effect, I'm here now. I am going to write a series of code that will allow me to do this. The first thing I need to do is create a folder for which I'm going to use. For me to create a folder, I need to go and look for where my htdocs is. So I am in my htdocs. In my htdocs, I'm going to create a new folder. In that new folder, I'm going to call it Crud, and then I'm going to open the new folder inside my VS Code. So VS code, oh, sorry, code dot, and then this whole folder is being opened for me in the VS code. Wonderful. Now, I'm going to create an index page, index.php. I'll create another page called select.php. And then inside this index.php, I'm going to create an A tag. And the A tag is going to have a href of select.php. And then I'll click here and say, click on this if you want to view information. Let me make the VS codes bigger so that you guys can see. Perfect. So again, if I want to open this, it means I need to go to localhost again, the server, and then the file that contains my work, which is what? Crud. And then I'm here. And when I click here, it takes me to what? Select.php. So basically, I've structured my work very well. I'm in select. Now, in select, I'm going to write a series of code. But the first thing I will do is I'll create another file called connect.php. Connect.php is going to serve a very important, it has an important role to play for us. And the important role in which it's going to play is that it is where our server is going to connect to our application. So here, I have to start by writing my PHP tags, since I'm going to be writing PHP code. In here, I would create a variable with the $sign and call this server. So here, I'll put in the server information. Over here, I have username. So I'll put in the username information. Over here, I have password. So I'll put in the password information. And then I have the DB name so that I can put in the DB information. Relax.
Yes, Mr. Mark, please, when you went into the browser and you typed in the address bar, you actually went into the folder. All right. I mean, you navigated into the folder. But what we saw is that it took you straight to select.php. Why didn't it take you to the index?
No, it did. It takes me to the index. Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen?
Okay, this is the index. Okay, all
So
right.
it takes
So when
you
you
to the
select
index,
that,
and then when you click here, then it takes you to the what? Select.
select.php.
I think I did it very
that.
fast, so you didn't see. So I came here and I just clicked on this line.
Okay, thank you.
So these three things here, to be honest, you don't really have to do this. Are we okay? What you need to do is know that for you to connect to the database, you need a very important tool called MySQLi_connect. Now, this MySQLi_connect takes three pieces of information. And the three pieces of information it takes them in a certain order. the first thing in which it will take is the name of your server. So my server name is localhost. The next thing it will take is the name of the user who has access to your server. To be honest, by default, the user who has access to your server is, when I go to home, for example, you see that at the top here, I can see user account. When I click on it, I can see these are the default users who have access to my server. Do not go and delete these people when you have not created your own default. Before you go and delete anything here, make sure you create, like, I don't know how to say, but you create your own username who has privileges, and it is a super user account before you go and delete anything. Because if you delete, even you can't log in again, especially if you are working in a live environment. So the username of our server by default is root. That is why every time we come here, we just type in root. That doesn't mean that for every single server access is called root. If you have created a username, that username you have created is what you type over here. And by default, there is no password. So we will leave this place empty. If you bring a space here, it means the password is space. So you want this place to be empty. And then the database you want to access, in our case, the database is called MyDB. So this function here called MySQL Connect takes these three pieces of information. To be honest, if you write it like this, it's correct, but it is bad code. You prefer, or the preferred method is for you to write these and put them in a particular variable. So I'll have root here, the username over here, the password is empty, and then the database name is over here. And then I would reference the variable names over here, rather. Like this. So again, you can write them in directly, it's not wrong, but to be honest, this piece of information here is very, very sensitive. So normally this piece of information here will be hidden somewhere. And then when a person comes, you only see these pieces of information here. So how you get this would be very, very difficult, because once I get this, I have access to your database regardless of wherever you are. Do we understand? Can I go on? Okay.
Yes, so you can, yeah, you can go on.
With that in mind, it means that any point we need to connect to the database, we need to write this function here. But for us to write this every single time, it becomes too cumbersome. So we are going to say that this piece of information here is equal to a variable we are calling connect. That means that anytime we call upon a variable called connect, we are technically calling upon this piece of information over here to go to our server, locate where it is, locate our database, and then bring back information for us. Now, it also means that every single place that we would use code that will go to the database, this piece of information has to be there. So technically, if I am going to use select.php to go and bring information from my database, I need to have this code over here. The problem of that is that if you have 100 pages, this code over there 100 times presents a very big problem. Another thing too is that if there is a change of your database or your server, it means you have to go to all of those 100 pages and make that kind of a change. It doesn't make sense. So what we will do is that we will tell the computer that on this page, that is select.php, we want you to include the code from connect.what.php. That means that all the code that we find here will automatically be included here. and I do not have to write the code again, so that if there is a change, if I make a change here, any place that is included, the change will have taken effect already. So I don't have to make any changes. Now, the next thing in which I have to do after doing this is I need to go and bring information from my database. To bring the information, I have to use an SQL statement. So here I'll write a variable. I'm going to call the variable query. You can call the variable anything you want. I am just choosing to call it query. And I'm saying that I would write the statement that will go and do the asking of my database and bringing my information in query. So in here, I'm going to say select ID, name, ID, name, and email from the users table. So if I run this statement here in my database, it will go into my database. So if I go into my database right now, so I go and click here and click here and click here, and I go and click on the database I am talking about right now, which is my DB. I click on SQL and I paste this there, and I click on go. I expect that it would go into the database, and as you can see, it shows you it found some things. And what did it find? It found ID, name, and email. You can see that the dates didn't come. Why didn't the dates come? Because we said only give us ID, name, and what? Email. Juliet. Juliet, you have a question? Juliet. Isaac, do you have a question?
Yeah, so I do have a question. I do have a question. I'm sorry, I was muted. I saw how you were very careful with the case sensitivity, like you were typing from in capital letters. Is PHP case sensitive as with Java?
This here is not PHP. It is SQL. That's number one. Number two, PHP is very case sensitive. So if you type something in capital letters, remember that you are typing it in capital letters. SQL is also, to be honest, SQL, I don't think SQL is case sensitive, but one thing is that the databases which are most databases uses SQL. And you don't want a situation whereby you find yourself in a database environment that uses SQL. That is case sensitive and you'll be screwed. So the keywords normally make sure they are capital, so that it becomes a habit of you. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, thank you very much.
And then Isaac.
Yeah, the same question. I was about to ask the same question.
So, as I was saying, over here, this statement here is supposed to go and run inside the database. It's supposed to do its job in the database. That is, I have to take the statement here and send it to the database, because over here, it is not in the database, it's in a PHP file. So how will I send it to the database? I would use MySQL I_query. And MySQL _query takes two things. It takes the connection we did to the database, and the connection we did to the database, we can find it inside connect.php, and we called it what? $connect. So over here, this is the connection I did to the database. And then the statement you want to send. Luckily for me, the statement, I put it in a variable called query. So you can see that here I have query over here. And now I have the ability to send the query to the database. Now, if that goes to the database, it will return with some information. So that information it will return with, I will store it in a variable in which I'm calling result. In which I'm calling result. Now, if it goes to the database and it finds a piece of information, it will find something bigger than 1. That is the number of rows that it will find will be more than 0. So I can use this method called mysqli underscore num underscore rows, and I will put in the results that it brought back from the database and store this information in a variable with $ count row. So if count row is bigger than 0, then in here, I can know that I have found something. But if it is not bigger than 0, then it means that my database does not have any record. So I can just echo no record found. Now, in the case that it finds something, then all my code that it found should be in this section here. So in here, I'm going to say, while there are rows in the database, so row is equal to mysqli underscore fetch underscore association, and I'll put in here the results that came from my database. I should do the following. I should echo out ID semicolon, and then I'll bring a dot because PHP, the dot is used to join things together. Like the way Java you use plus, PHP you use dot. So dot here, and in here, I'm going to put $ row, because we said anything it finds in the row. Again, let's bring it here. Everything here is 1 row. So if I had 2 things in my database, for example, I came here and then I created another user called, let's say, Jane, and here I'll say jane@gmail.com. Over here, I'll say Kwame Brown, and here I would say Kwame@gmail.com and press go. Now, if I run my query again, so if I tell the database to go and find all users in my database for me again, now it tells me that it found 3 things from 0 to 2. It starts counting from 0. So it found 3 things. So technically, this is 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. That's why it's telling you found 3 things. So this query here will put the first row information into the variable I have here called row. And here, I'm telling the computer that in here, display the content where you find the field column called ID. That is over here. It's called ID, name, and email. So this row display what is in the ID of the first column. That is what I've done over here. So it will display the first row, what is in here. Or let me rephrase, the row that he has taken at that point in time, what is in the ID column. That is what will be displayed over here. I can also echo out name, I'll bring a space here and a dot here, and I'll say row name. I'll echo out again. And then I'll say email dot row email. And then in here, I'll just say echo BR. Now, this piece of code here will do something very important for us. It will take the first row, put the information here, display what is in the first row. When it gets here, it will ask, are there more rows? If it is yes, it will go and take the second row and put the information here and display them. Then the third row, and then till if there are 100, it will do that 100 times. So if I come back to my code over here, I go back to my index page, and then I click on this to view the information. I can see that the information in my database is being shown to me, where I have ID, name, and email. And you can see that the space I gave is showing the information with the space. That is why over here, I knew that if I didn't bring this space, everything will be clumped together. Remember, you are in control of everything which is displayed on your screen. You must know what will happen with each thing you type at all times. So if I want them to be separated, well, I could briefly bring a comma here so that at the last point, it will go to a new line. That is why over here, you see that every point in time, sorry, I have to save this. Every point in time in my code, it will display this with the comma, then display this with the comma, then display this. And when it gets here, it goes to a what? New line. This is how we retrieve information from the database in PHP. Are there any questions?
Very practical.
So it is here whereby if your skills are very good, you can note that you can create, you can echo out a table over here. Of course, if you open a table, you must what? Close the table. Over here, instead of me just echoing out this, I am going to echo out sorry, I'm going to echo out this TD, and then here too, I'm going to add dot close TD here. Of course, if you have a TD, then it means you have to have a table row. And over here, instead of me having a BR here, I'll have close table row. Now, over here, I'll say border is equal to, in single quotes, 1. If you can see what I've done very well, you can see that I've modified the code by putting in HTML in the PHP. What would that do for me? Instead of my information appearing like this, they can now appear in a table format. And I can use that to create a table. So much so that for example, if I'm building an application, so I'm building an application for, let's say, doctor's appointment, for example. So here I will log in. I will type the username and the password of the application. So here I have admin, and here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as my password. Oh, sorry, here the admin, I've forgotten this table. Password, let me see. It's over here somewhere. It's here. So I can go here and take it from here. Login. Oh, sorry. So what happened? Login. Link. Oh,
Send the password 1, 2, 3.
yes. So I'm logged in. So here I can see my information here. I have 2 doctors, 3 patients, 1 patient here, 1 patient here. This is go to the database, select the number of doctors, go to the database, select, go to the database, select, go to the database, select, then you display. Over here, where you have the password, where your person was typing the password, over there too, it is go to the database and what? Select the password that is that and that. So the selection can be used for multitude of things. Anything that we have to retrieve from the database, we would use select to do that. That is why the select is very, very important. Of course, the design of this form is HTML and CSS, that's fine. But once you do that, you must go to the database and retrieve the information there. And then this is how we will do that. So you can see that I've put it to the table format. I can now manipulate the data in ways in which I want because of my grasp of HTML and CSS and everything I want. But for today's purposes, we will not bother ourselves with this table code and everything. Relax. Today, we just want to display the simple way of doing it like this. So very, very simple. This one, no one is here to doing this one. So all we want to display it is like what? It's like this. Like this. Simple. Hewlett.
Yeah, Mr. Mark, I'm sorry, this question is a bit away from what we are learning, even though it's related some way. I saw that you looked at the password of the user. I was wondering how you did that, since passwords are usually stored in a one-way hash, irreversible encryption. So
Passwords
are
are
usually
not
stored in a one-way hash.
passwords are not usually stored in a one-way hash.
Okay.
Passwords are stored. Let's get that one out of the way. Now, when you store them, you specify how you want them to be stored. So you can specify that you want them to be stored as a one-way hash. Or you can specify that one-way hashes are too easy for you, so you want to use your own encryption algorithm. Or you are now building the application, so every time you forget a password, if you have to go and look at the one-way hash and it will bother you, you don't like it. So for now, you want it to be stored like how the person typed it. In my case, I am now building this application over here. So me going to look for the password in the one-way hash is a bother for me. Hence, I have saved the password the way in which I typed it. So that once I am comfortable that I can move on, then I can implement the security algorithms to encrypt all the password and sensitive information. Is that okay?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. This is copied, sir.
So, of course, once everything is okay with my application, then I can go and then say that, okay, this password here, I want you to use, let's say, MD5 to encrypt it. When I press go here, you can see that now the password is encrypted using what? MD5. But for now, I'm not bothered because it's on my computer. No one will come and take my computer out. Are we okay? So we are done with selection. Now let's go to delete. How do I delete? So for delete, again, I will go and click on this. The sidebar, create a new button, call it delete. Dot what? PHP. And in here, I'm going to connect to, so I have PHP tag. I'm going to be accessing the database. So I need what? Include the code I have in connect.what? PHP. And since I have included the code over there, now I can write my statement that will go to my database to execute. The statement for delete is quite simple. It is delete so I have delete from the users table. If I type delete from the users table like this, I have just killed myself because it will delete every single thing in the users table. That is what I've written here. So I don't want to do that. I want to delete from the users table where the person's ID is equal to what? 1 in single quotes. So this statement here means I'll go to the users table and look at the ID column and look for where 1 is and delete that one row from there. If I put 2 here to delete 2's row, if I put 3 to delete 3's row. If I just leave the statement as delete users, it will delete everything in which I have there. And I don't want that. Now, again, all I have to do is say result, because when it goes to delete, I must know if it has deleted, right? Is equal to MySQL I underscore query. And remember, query takes 2 things. It takes the connection code we did, and it also takes the query that we are going to run in our database. Now, I'm going to say if the query we send to our database is run successfully, because this one, when it runs, to give you a yes or no answer. So it's true or false. So I can say if true or if what? False. If it doesn't run, if the server is cut or something goes wrong, it will say what? False. For example, if I type A over here, so instead of ID saying aid, this is wrong because there's no column in my table called A. So it is definitely wrong. This query is wrong. So in here, I'll just tell the computer to echo out successful if it is true, and if it is false, is to tell me else echo unsuccessful. Now, the most important thing is this. Let's see how it works. But when I come here into my browser, how will I know that it works? Because there is no way for me to get there if I don't type delete.php at the top. So in my index page, I would create another A tag that says click to delete. And here the href would be delete dot what? PHP. So that when I'm here and I click on this one here, it takes me to what? Delete. And what does it tell me? It tells me that what I was trying to do was unsuccessful. It was unsuccessful. Why was it unsuccessful? The query statement I wrote to go and do its job in the database, that is this, There is nothing called aid in my database. So it is wrong. Most of you, when you make the command, your queries will be wrong. Maybe a semicolon didn't come, a comma didn't come. So if your SQL statement has a single mistake in it, nothing will run. So in here again, when I change it back to ID and I run it again, it tells me what? Successful. When I go and check and browse, I can see that my tables are now 2 and 3. If I go back to it again and I change this one to 2, let me change it to 3, and then I go back to my browser again, and I refresh my browser to tell me successful. When I come here and I refresh this again, you see that the 2 is gone. It's just the 3 is gone. It's just left with what? 2. So this is how I can select items and delete items from my database using the PHP. Are there any questions, please? Juliet.
Yeah, please, in my SQL, can I still bring the all command? For instance, as we are saying that delete from let's say users table, can we say, let's say delete all from users table, that is included star?
The all only works with select, doesn't work with delete.
Oh, okay. All right, doesn't work with delete. Thank you.
So the moment you say delete from users table, it means that you are deleting everything from the users table.
Okay.
So there's no need for all again.
Okay.
That's why there's no all in delete.
Okay.
But when you have select, you have all. Is that clear?
Okay. Yeah, this copied.
Now that we can delete, let's see what we will do to add information to our database. So over here, I'll click on this again, and I'll go and click on insert.php. So if I want to insert something to my database, again, I will require the information we did at the top here, which is the include, right? And then the PHP tag closes over here. Wonderful. Wonderful. Now, the code to insert into our database is here. Or let me write it. Let me write it. Query is equal to insert into the users table. And what are we inserting? What columns do you want to be inserted in the users table? The name and the email field. Because remember, the ID field is already an auto increment. So we don't have to enter anything there. And the last one, the date, is we said it should be automatic date. So we don't have to enter anything there too. So we want to insert in these two things. Now the question is, what values do you want to insert in them? I want to insert in double quotes, because remember they are strings, Isaac. So sorry, so here it has to be the single quote. Isaac, comma, Siam. So this is what I want to insert into my what? Database. Of course, I've made a mistake here because this column here takes the full name, so Isaac Isiam, and then this column here would take the email address. So let's say Isaac at gmail.com. Whoa. So this information here would go and run in my database. Again, just like the delete, I need all the information here. That is, I need to run it into my database, and then I'll check if it was successful or not. That's all. So when I come back here, I'll go to my index. Over here, let me add a break so that it will not all be on one line. So break. And then in here, I'll do an A tag again and say insert into database. And of course, over here, I will have href being equal to insert dot what? PHP. Wonderful. Now, for my code, I can go to my screen. What is my expectation? My expectation is that when I run the code over here and I come to browse here, I should see Isaac's name appearing under what? J. So when I come here again, I'll refresh my page. I can click on insert. It tells me it was successful. When I come here and I refresh it again, I can see Isaac's name there. You can see it's 4. So it knows that the last one was 3. So it is continuing with the 4. And that is how forensic digital forensic scientists also know you deleted some information, because the tallying will not tally, if you understand what I mean. And over here, you see that the time in which it was uploaded onto my server is also there. So I have the date and time stamp over there. So if I want to create a new person, let's say I want to put in, all I have to do is just change these 2 pieces of information over here. So here I'll have Derek. And then over here I have Derek at gmail.com. And then I can only go and refresh my page. It tells me it was successful again. And when I come here and I refresh this, I'll see what? Derek over here. Any questions? The last thing in our whole process is for us to update. Yeah, Hewlett.
Yeah, you actually produced a nice way of retrieving the values in a tabular format. Now, if we want to insert, is there a way we can prevent seeing this complex query so that we can put it into variables in which the user can insert the values and this will still go, instead of putting it into this complex query?
Fantastic question. Fantastic question. Now, obviously, let me put it this way. This is the code you saw for the appointment thing. Are we okay? Okay. So over here, I have doctors. And in here, I have add a doctor. Can you see this add a doctor thing here? Hewlett, are you there?
Yeah, I can see.
You can see add a doctor.
Yeah.
So here I'm adding a doctor. Are we okay? So the doctor's name is. Added? The doctor's name is Hewlett. And then over here, the email address of the doctor is Hewlett's Bosu. Let me add Bosu. And then over here, let me see Bossman. Yeah, that's better. So Hewlett@gmail.com. Over here, your number is, let's see, 998877. And then over here, your phone number is this. And then over here, you are a grief counselor. And over here, let's say your password is that. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Are we okay? Then I click on add. And it tells me that it has added you successfully. Note that this is how we did the select, right? Okay. Now, let's go to the code side. So over here at the code side, I can see add new doctor over here. Okay. We have doctors, and this allows me to add a new doctor. This is the posting. So the form you filled, the information is collected using the posting. Do you understand? And when you collect it, let's see the statement that is here. Insert into the doctor's table. These are the things you are inserting into the doctor's table. And then the things you collected in the form, do you see the $sign in front of them? These are the things you have here. So over here, in what we are doing in this scenario, we are typing them directly here. But in practice, you will have to design a form. When you design a form, you either collect the information using post and get. That is why I made you people learn the post and get. So if you learn the post and get, and that is why I also learned you how to put information in a sentence using post and get to design a sentence. Once you can do that, you can put the information in the query at the points in which they are supposed to be in and push it into the database. The same way over here, you would collect the information from the form, and the form is in post. So where you have name, the NIC number, the specialty, the email, the telephone number, the phone number, and then the confirmed phone number. So before we do anything, we will check if the password and the confirmed password are the same. If they are not the same, we'll give you an error. If everything is fine, then we can insert your information into the database. Hewlett, do you understand?
This is copied, sir.
Pardon?
It's copied. It's understood.
So you now design a form, collect the information, and go and put it in the statement, and then shoot it to the database. So what I've done is I have layered our lesson in such a way that we have learned how to take information from a form. We've learned how to put information in a sentence. Now we are learning the queries that are very important. So it means the next lesson we are coming to put all of them together by designing a form, taking the information, putting it together and sending it to the database, or taking information and going to delete. For example, over here, when I click on the delete button for doctor, you can see that I am deleting the information where the doctor's email is equal to this. I can't just delete from the doctor's information. If I delete this, if I just write this query here, everything will go haywire. So I'm deleting from where the doctor's email is this. But we deleted using the ID. So it means you have to find a way to uniquely identify the person. And then again, the email, everybody has one email. So it uniquely identifies you so that we can delete you. So as you can see, here we don't just put 1 or 2 there. We put the information that is in the form. And the form information is collected using the what? The get. So there is a reason why we learned that get and post. That is what is going to allow us to do the transfer of data and the movement and pushing this here and that there. That is going to go and help us do all of those things. So technically, we have all the tools we need to do everything we want. Now, we have to put them all together. Are there any questions? So now we are going to do update. Luckily, update looks the same as insert, but the update statement is different from that of the insert. So here I have to remove the SQL statement I have over here. Update means that, for example, if I have an error in my name or something, I can go and make changes to it. So in here, I'm going to say update. The update keyword comes into play here. And once the update keyword comes into play, the next thing in which I have to do is tell the computer what table I want to do my updating from. And the table name in our case is called what? User. For example, in the example I was showing you guys, the update is called what? Doctor. So you can see that the next thing which follows is the table name. Now, what are the things you want to update? So I'm going to set, in this case, I can't update ID because it's my primary key. So name should be equal to, let's say, HP our dear HP Elite book. Comma. And I also want to update the email of that person. So I'm updating the email to hp@gmail.com. Now, the question is, where do I want to do this updating? Because if I leave it like this, it is going to update every single column I have in my database. So I want you to update where the person's ID is equal to what? 4. Again, we'll run it in our query and then tell us if it is successful or not. Again, in the index page, I'm going to add another column over there for update data. And here, of course, I'll change it to what? Update. So again, if I come in here, I expect that once I am in my browser, when I update for the Isaac will go away and turn to HP Elite Book. So when I'm back here, I refresh here to bring this up. I click on it. It tells me unsuccessful, which means that the query I've written is wrong. So let's go and see the query. So here I have let's see. Let me copy this and run this and see where my error is. By the way, as you can see, me too, I get error. So those of you who get error and then stop programming, you know. So I can go here. I have an error and it tells me, oh, user does not exist. It's true. Our table name is called what? Users. So there's supposed to be an S over here. So if I come back here and I update, it will tell me successful. If I go to browse, it will see that where 4 was now HP Elite Book, and this has also changed to HP. So these are the things we will do with our information. We'll delete, fetch information, delete, update, insert into the table. These 4 things are essential to anything we'll do. We'll do this on repeat. So we need to know the structure of the statement. Once we know the structure of the statement, we can proceed from then on. And as you can see, I've shown you a real-life application running, and you can see that the structure is the same. You go and fetch from the database, you do some stuff, and then you display, so on and so forth. Are we okay? Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for coming to class today. Today, our job was to learn how we can create, read, update, and delete information from our database using PHP. I think we have achieved that. I highly advise you to go and practice. And again, you guys are not children. You are not children. The whole ball game of life is hard, there's no time, and all of those things, those excuses have to go. It's coding. You have to practice. If you don't practice, you continue saying it is difficult because you haven't practiced. If you practice and you get stuck, I'm always there. Send me a message, send me a snapshot. We'll figure out how to help you get forward. It's very important you practice. Thank you for coming. If there are no questions, we'll bring the class to an end. Yes, Hewlett.
Yeah, sir, Mr. Mark, thank you very much for your immense effort to make us understand this. And we also will play a part that we have to play